Hello, my name is Lauren and today I'm going to show you how I declutter my kitchen and reduce what's going into landfill. Let's get started. So my main goal whenever I go through anything in my house is to put the least amount of items as possible in the landfill. Some of this is not going to be possible today, but that is my overarching goal. Encompassing that, I also want to reduce the items that I'm putting to go to recycling. I feel like recycling is one of those kind of greenwashing things that you have a plastic container, you put it in recycling, and then magically they're going to use the same container again exactly like it is. When in reality, only 9% of plastics ever produced have actually been recycled. I'm going to avoid as much as possible putting things into landfill and recycling. Now when I say recycling, that doesn't mean repurposing or reusing. If you are reusing or repurposing things for a different way, then that is great. You're still keeping it out of a processing plant where something will possibly just end up in landfill anyway. I've got my box here in which I'm going to be putting the items and then carefully thinking about how I can get rid of those. And as I go through the process, I'll explain where these items are eventually going to go. Okay, so first of all, I just want to preface this by saying that I am not perfect, but I am on a constant journey of trying to be more sustainable in my life. I'm going to have food waste sometimes. I'm going to maybe buy things that I ended up not using or things that maybe weren't the best quality. And I think the most important thing to remember is on your journey to sustainability, the main thing is that you are trying. So keep that in mind while you're going through your kitchen. I'm going to keep that in mind for myself today as well. So I've already cleaned my kitchen for today, but I haven't organized anything in the fridge, anything in the pantry, any of the cupboards. So everything you're going to see today is exactly how it normally is, and I'm just going to be transparent about that. It's not going to be aesthetically pleasing, but it's real life and it's what my kitchen looks like right now. And also just by leaving everything as it is, it kind of shows me the items that I use more than not. So if I'm reaching really far back into a cabinet to grab something, probably means I haven't used that for a while. Okay, so I have gone through everything in my fridge and my freezer, and I have put all the questionable stuff out here. And these are the 5 steps that I go through in order to decide what I'm going to do with them. So the first thing I do is I look at the expiration date. Expiration dates can also be called like sell-by dates, best buy dates. Basically, there's lots of different things that the food industry uses in order for you to buy food faster than when it actually expires. So when I look at an expiration date, I kind of take that with a grain of salt. It's not necessarily means that you can't consume it after that date safely. So the best buy date is kind of like, that would be the best time to consume it, but it's absolutely still safe to eat after the best buy date. The thing that I do is I look at the expiration date, kind of keep that in mind. I look at the food item, I see, is there any mold? Is there something that just doesn't look right? Does it actually look like something that is consumable that I would eat? And then the last thing I do is I give it a smell test. If it smells good, if it looks good, if it tastes good, then I don't even think about the expiration date at all. Okay, so I have looked through for an item and I've realized that it is not good, safe anymore to eat. I'm gonna go through now and I'm gonna compost the food that is definitely past its expiration date. And I just wanted to say that whenever I compost, I don't buy any particular bags or any like compost material. Whenever I have a paper bag or whether I have like some paper packaging or just cardboard, I use that as my composting material. Only thing just to keep in mind is make sure that you like take off receipts, staples, any plastic or any tape or anything off of any bags that you're reusing so that everything is like organic material that can biodegrade. Completely understand that composting is not possible for everyone, but if you have not tried composting, at least look into it and see if your city composts it. Luckily, my city has just started composting within the last year, so I put my food waste in the same can that I do with any of my garden waste, and that gets composted. Now, before my city started doing this, there actually was a group that I paid a little monthly fee, and I composted all of my food to this company, and in return I got some compost and I was able to use that in the yard. So even if you think, oh, my city doesn't compost or I don't have the land to have a compost pile, just look into it into your local area. You may be actually surprised that there's options for composting that you didn't realize were there before. So the third thing, what can you do with the packaging? So obviously, in a perfect world, we could take that packaging, we could reuse it for something, we can give it away to somebody who might use it. Unfortunately, some things are going to go in the landfill, but when I think about the steps that are going to be going into the landfill, there's a few things that I think about beforehand. First of all, I'll show you a couple things that I've used in the past. You know those like aesthetically pleasing TikToks or reels where, you know, somebody's got their perfect fridge and they've got all these like glass containers and everything, and people are constantly like, where'd you buy those containers? Those are great. You don't really need to buy containers like that. A lot of the things that you buy from the supermarket, and once you're finished with them, you can just reuse them and use them for that exact same purpose. It's free and it's super sustainable because you're just reusing something. So here's some examples about what I use. I've got some chia seeds in here, and this is an old pasta jar. I have this out on the counter because I add it to oatmeal, add it to yogurt, and it's just kind of nice to have that on the counter ready to go, and it's in an airtight container. Another thing is that I buy a huge jug of olive oil and then I decant it by putting it into a glass bottle. Now this glass bottle actually was a wine bottle, and I did have to buy the little olive oil toppers. Another thing that maybe if you picked up, if you looked at my freezer, was that I have some old candles in here. I use the candle jars for other things. I am going to start in the future, I think, to like make my own wax and kind of refill them. But in the past, what I've done is I put the candles in the freezer, and then once the wax freezes, it's really, really easy to just pick out the wax, and then you can reuse these for something else. I've reused candle jars all over my house for lots of different things. Okay, so I have gone through my pantry, and here's all the food that I'm kind of questioning. I'm not sure if it is expired, if it's okay to eat. So step 4 on my list of decluttering food is, once I determine that some of my food is edible, it's still okay to eat, but maybe it's something that's going to go off kind of soon, is I put it in front of something. So in my pantry, my fridge, my freezer, I put it right in the front, and especially I put it right at my eye line, the level that my height is, so that when I open up that fridge or freezer or pantry, that is the first thing that I see and the first thing I'm going to think about. And my last and final step is I'm going to use that food item and plan it in a meal upcoming in the next week or so. So obviously, as you can see, I am not perfect. I have some food waste. I have some stuff that I maybe opened, I used once for a recipe, and then I forgot about it, and now it's maybe gone off. So the best way to avoid doing that is just to plan your meals. Planning meals does reduce food waste. All right, so I wanted to be completely transparent and show you the waste that I've created by going through all my food. One pile over here, which is my recycling pile. Now this is only just cardboard and paper, and this is actually stuff that some of it I'm probably going to keep and use to like line compost and kind of keep that smell out like I mentioned earlier. So a lot of this can be recycled, and also I'm going to reuse some of it for composting. This is the cardboard and paper recyclable stuff. So they will take these things, but it's not really guaranteed that it's going to be recycled, but I will still put it in the recycling just in case. And this pile right here is my landfill pile. It's kind of spread out a little bit, but I don't think that's really that bad once you think about all of the food that I went through. So also with my landfill and my recycle pile, I've got these jars. Glass is really, really easy to recycle. Glass can be recycled an infinite amount of times, but if you can reuse it, I always try to. And I really, really like these barbecue sauce jars. So I think they'd be really, really good to use like if you're making your own dressing for salad, and you can put that in there. Unfortunately, this kimchi jar is plastic and it has stained the plastic, which means that it can't be recycled. Plastic has to be in pristine condition if it is recycled at all. So I will not be putting this in the recycle. This is going to be added to the landfill pile, unfortunately. Okay, so now the last thing to do is just to clean everything. I'm going to wipe down the fridge and the freezer and kind of organize it in a better way. And like I said earlier, I'm going to put those food items that I need to use first in my eye line right in the front. And then I'm also going to make a grocery list that I can use those items and incorporate them in a meal that I'm going to have next week. we go to the next part of cleaning out like my kitchen supplies and stuff, I just want to say that I know that I don't have like a really full fridge, and I know sometimes that on social media you see these fridges where like there's loads of different colors and lots of fruits and veggies and everything. And for me, I just feel like sometimes that's just not very realistic. Obviously, you want to plan healthy meals for you and your family, but a lot of times the chance that you are actually going to eat all that before it expires is kind of slim. I feel like we should start normalizing seeing fridges that aren't filled to the brim. I'm lucky enough to be able to buy food and afford it whenever I need it. I feel extremely privileged that I can afford to buy food whenever I want to and have a full fridge. That doesn't necessarily equate to a sustainable thing for our planet. So we want to be... Okay, gonna stop right there for a second. What I was struggling to say here was that a full fridge is great if all that food isn't wasted. For me, I try to be more intentional when buying perishables, and it may not look like I have a lot of food, but it's all there for a purpose, so I waste less. Let me know in the comments whether you think like full fridge versus empty fridge, and if there is any correlation or any difference at all. So before we start the kitchen section, come here. Ugh. There's nothing up there, okay? Yep, okay, good. All right, so before we start the kitchen section, I'll just kind of explain how the process is going to work. If you saw my closet decluttering video, it's going to be kind of similar, but just a few little differences. So I've got my first pile, which is, yes, these are items that I use regularly, all the time, whatever, I'm keeping them. Then I've got my maybe pile. I'm actually going to put them in a separate container in my cabinets. I'm also going to put a little sticky note with the date today so that I know that I put all those items in there, and if I'm taking them out, or maybe I'm not going to take them out for an entire year. And so that way it tells me that those are items that I definitely don't use. So this time next year, I can get rid of those items. So in my no pile, these are things that I have duplicates of, or things that I don't use, or things that maybe I was gifted and I just don't use it. I'll put that in the no pile. Now, putting them in the no pile does not mean that they are going to landfill. That is going to be my last option, and that's only for things that maybe are broken, can't be fixed, that kind of thing. I've got a couple things that I'm going to be doing with them. So first of all, I'm going to offer it up as a free item. If it's something that I think I can make some money back on, I'm going to sell it, so you can use your standards, your Facebook marketplaces, that kind of stuff. The second thing that I'm going to try and do is I'm going to offer it up for free. If it's an item that I don't think is going to sell, or I just don't want to go through the hassle of selling it, I will offer it up for free. So my favorite thing to do is go into my Facebook group called Buy Nothing. So the Buy Nothing groups are honestly like one of the most sustainable things I've seen. It's people in a very, very small location within your immediate, like within 10 minutes of driving of where you live. They offer up items that they don't want anymore. You can take them if you need them. You can also ask for items and people can give them to you for free. I love Buy Nothing groups, and I feel like it's just such a sustainable way to not put things into landfill. And the last thing is that you can offer things for free in front of your house in your neighborhood. This was something that I saw a lot more like at the beginning stages of the pandemic. I was actually in England during the beginning when like COVID started happening, and I feel like because everybody was at home, everybody just started going through their house and seeing what they could get rid of. People just put things on the sidewalk in front of their house and marked free on a box. I actually got a lot of really good books during that time because I didn't really have much else to do, so I actually read a lot during that period and got to reuse some books, and I still have these books on my bookshelf, so I think that that's another great way you can do it. So with those 3 steps, I don't expect any of the things that I'm going through in my kitchen to go to landfill. So just a quick one, if you've ever ordered takeout, you know that you get these little plastic containers sometimes with your takeout. These are really, really good to use. They actually sell these like in a big pack for like meal prep for, you know, and they're the exact same ones that you get for free in takeout. So I really don't understand why people buy them when you could just get them for free and reuse them. So just have a couple of things to say before I end the video. First of all, the most important thing, as I've already said, is that you are trying, and that's great. So as you can see, I'm not perfect. I had some food waste. I ended up into landfill, but the amount that I have reduced by thinking about it, thinking about, can I reuse this? Can I compost this? Can I recycle this? Can I give this away to someone? All of these things are important things to think about whenever you're trying to be more sustainable. One thing I didn't mention is that there is a lot of ways that you can make your food fresher for longer, and honestly I could make a whole nother video on that. There is so much included in that. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that video. I've got a couple things linked below if you are interested. They're things that I've had in my kitchen for years, and if you have any other things that you'd like to share with everyone, I would love to make like the comment section a little community space where you can add some tips or add something that maybe worked for you in order to create a more sustainable world. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave it better than you found it, and I will see you next time.